Hello and welcome to the incredible Michaelites. It's about St. Michael's 1858. So we have got three extremely great uh, alumni from the school. We have got Mr. Rajiv Soni, 1970. We have got Mr. Abhayanand, 1971, and Dr. Rajiv Das, 1975. So we'll start with the introduction. So we'll come to Rajiv Soni first. Rajiv Soni has got 25 years of experience with working with Tata Steel as corporate communication and marketing communication head. And he also started with the bank as well. And currently he's associated with the Takshila Education Society. So let me come straight to Amber sir. Amber sir, can you take this first round of the school stories before we come to the personal achievements?
All right. So, fellow Michaelites and viewers,
I think he has some connection issues. So I think we'll have to come back to again on Abhayanand sir. So Rajiv, let me take you to the the section of professional and personal achievements. So can you give your hobby of as an avid photographer? Can you just show your journey on this and share your experiences?
As a photographer?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what we have.
I know where you guys have picked up the information from. Yeah, but I'm kind of a semi-professional photographer. I picked it up when I was still in school, and I was used to have. Fortunately, when the Jesuits came in, they got in this camera club, and am I audible?
Yes, Bia. Please go on.
So I need some. Yeah. So that's when I got this interest in photography. And then it was in, when I joined Patna College, the Department of Commerce, and then I had a couple of years, thanks to the Jayaprakash Narayan movement, nothing to do. So I actually went and studied and learned photography. And that's the time I did a lot of work, and I held a lot of my personal salons, and I had my personal exhibitions, and also revived the Patna College Photography Society. But this is way back in 1972-73, and that's how it started. And then my father came back from Merchant Navy, and he set up shop, this quick processing center. And then I actually retired. I resigned from the Union Bank of India for more reasons than one. And I had to help my father and to also stay back in Patna. And that's when I took it up almost like professionally for some time, almost I would say for 3-4 years, along with this advertising agency that I was working. And I can safely and very proudly say that we were the first guys in Eastern India to set up a whole video unit. I used to get contracts from Calcutta to do marriages and those kind of things, which is actually none of the million people do on cameras these days. But it was good fun. And then as it evolved, when I joined Tata's for 25 years and over 25 years, I used to dabble in it, but there was no time. Although I used to lead a team of photographers, my photography background did help me in my advertising work a hell of a lot. It's only in the last 5-6 years that I've really gone back to it avidly, and I've had 2 or 3 exhibitions again. I'm very, very interested in the city that I've now settled in, Calcutta. So I did a whole series called The Bricks of the Raj, which was inaugurated. I had to hold the exhibition twice. First, it was inaugurated by the ambassador from France, and then 5 ambassadors came to Calcutta from the Nordic countries, and I had to set up the exhibition again, and it was re-inaugurated.
Oh, so brilliant!
This is all about European Calcutta, so everybody had some kind of interest in it. So so that is it. But to take it slightly further, from not being long, I have done a whole book on Calcutta as a contributory photographer called Calcutta Smiles, and I've got a book. Wait, just give me a minute. This is the first time anybody is seeing this. But it looks like this. It's a whole collection of photographs of Patna, which book should be out very soon.
City of Patna, very good, sir.
That is it. So that's my photography thing.
Rajiv, can you also explain this school photographs, the collections we have?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Amber, I can. Tell me.
Okay.
So Amber, sir, just hang on. Rajiv Bhaiya is trying to take us to the school photographs archives first.
Wonderful.
And then you can start. Yeah, please.
Yeah, wonderful.
Rajiv, yeah.
So I must kind of say something here that in the last or the one before this, the conversation that we had with Amitabh Chaudhary, and Amitabh Chaudhary said that he was the first Michaelite there in this whole thing in the two sessions, which is correct. But when he came in '69, the Jesuits are already coming. So as far as the incredible Michaelite session is concerned, I can safely say I hold that mantle of being the first Michaelite because I joined the school way back in 1960, 61. So, and these photographs will just show you what the school looked like when I joined. Not 1930, but this is a view from the river as it says. And if you notice that on the left-hand side or right in the middle of the photograph, there's a clump of trees where this the whole new building has now come up. And on the right, the three, जो तीन पेड़ जो आपको नजर आ रहे हैं, that's where the new building has come up. The new Jesuit quarters and the swimming pool all came in much later. So this is a 1930 photograph taken from, I understand, from the school steamer. There was a steamer or a launch that the school used to own, and used to ferry boys from that side to of Paleza, the hostelers from that side to this side, and also run errands on up and down. The school had a small little launch stroke steamer. It was taken from that particular thing. So it's quite a historic photograph. This one. Yeah.
Okay, Rajiv.
Yeah.
See, I mean, like Amitabh Chaudhary told us that he sought admission in St. Xavier's, but then he couldn't get it, so he came to St. Michael's. All right. And exactly the opposite happened with me. In fact, way back, when Brother Kumba was the principal, I sought admission in St. Michael's, but somehow or the other, I couldn't get it. So then Father Murphy gave me admission over there. And otherwise, I would have been with you in St. Michael's, I think, from 1962 or 63 onwards.
Well,
all right. So now, when you, as a, I would say, original, genuine Michaelite, when you heard about this merger, okay, because, I mean, suddenly it was disclosed to us one fine evening, all right, by Father Murphy. First, he disclosed it to us in the hostel. And then, so how did you feel? Because I remember, I have memories of you, Rajiv. I mean, as the one, I would always remember you as, the one very, very cheerful, always very active, running around in the corridors. And perhaps you were one of those first, I would say, Michaelites who actually gelled so beautifully with St. Xavier's and with the Xaverians. And largely, I felt, that guys like you were largely instrumental in getting the merger, all right, really in its proper spirit as Father Murphy wanted it. Memories of the brothers. Please take us through. I mean, like
see, that's a long one, and I'm going to combine it together. See, when we joined school in 1960, and the kind of lifestyle, or I wouldn't say lifestyle, or the school life that we had, for 8 years or 9 years before the Jesuits came in, was totally different from what we experienced in '69 when the Jesuits came in. Let me explain that. The Irish brothers, the Christian Irish brothers, they were very, very strict disciplinarians. I always say this, and I say this in jest, and that you ask any Michaelite and he can still touch his toes, because we were asked to touch our toes when we got 6 on our butts. So that is. But having said that, the systems were different, and like we didn't have any assembly. We didn't have this kind of bonhomie kind of a thing, even with the teacher. Like, we had no student council, etc. But yes, with the quality of teaching that we had, the kind of brothers that we had, we were not subject to, or we didn't experience teachers. It was the Christian Irish brothers that taught us the basic subjects right down till the senior classes. So when the merger happened, and I think we came to know about it in end of 1968 or so, we were all apprehensive, and that's the word I'm going to use. We were very apprehensive. Kya hone wala hai? And because all of a sudden, it was not only that we got this new set of faces that we had to make as school buddies, and some of them could be friends and some could not be friends, etc. But we got a new set of teachers. We got a new set of teaching style. So we were almost apprehensive and terrified. There were the new methods. There was a new administration. Like I said, but there were some very welcome changes. Like the assembly came in. Student council was a great thing for us. So all that happened. Now, you said that people like me were instrumental or whatever. I take it as a huge compliment. But I think the credit goes to Father Murphy and his team of that time, is because many decades later, when we got into the corporate world and then companies began to acquire and merge, etc., And the idea of putting, getting two companies together, I mean, it was done so beautifully and seamlessly by the Jesuits that one can just applaud them, because it was done almost seamless. Yes, it must have had its teething problems or whatever it happened, but it was very, 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 very thing. And on the other side, and the only consolation we had that we didn't have to change campus. So for the Michaelite, it was maybe more of a task adjusting, because we had these new teachers, new teaching style, new administration. Whereas for the people coming from the Patna campus, they also must have felt the change for new faces, etc. But they didn't have to change as far as their learning styles or the school or the teachers were concerned.
Yeah, especially the principle was the same for us.
Principle was the same for you. But I have experienced a lot of great and amazing Christian brothers. If the old Michaelites will remember, like a brother O'Malley, who was, and I'm going to get absolutely on the news for this one, who was a fantastic combination of Father Murphy, Father Cox, and maybe Father Clary on that. We used to call him Brother Mali because he was very fond of horticulture and this and that. He's absolutely an unforgettable character. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Rajiv.
That was long, but that's it.
Why I called you and I paid you a compliment word, because I'm like you became friends with most of my classmates. All right. Very, very quickly. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rajiv, for taking us down memory lane. Now we move on to Abhay Bhai.
Yes, I can hear you, Amber.
Yes, thank you. Abhay Bhai, welcome to this incredible Michaelites webinar. Abhay Bhai, you were always, the very serious kind. And, I was just going through one of your presentations where you said that the face and the real content of education can become meaningful only when the educators, the powers that be, understand the basic difference between knowing something and actually understanding, what you know. Now for that, I'm reminded of, a wonderful quotation that a good, an ordinary teacher, tells, a good teacher explains, a better teacher demonstrates, and of course, a brilliant teacher inspires. So I believe, a brilliant teacher would definitely inspire the kids to actually not just know, but to also, try and understand, everything behind what he or she knows. So would you perhaps, recalling your school days, would you like to, just maybe, I know it's very difficult to pinpoint one teacher or the other, but still, how did you get this inspiration, of really understanding and getting behind the, the actual thing, all right, from the school day itself? Over to you, Abhay Bhai.
Amber, I'm reminded of the first day that I had in my physics class, Mr. Kennedy.
Okay.
And this was in St. Xavier's.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the next year, 9th, that we shifted to St. Michael.
Yeah.
But since you've talked about learning and knowing, I would like to recall that first day. I do not know why and how Mr. Kennedy chose to take us to the lab. And for a person, a class 8 child who has never seen a lab in his life, he is exposed to all the gadgets in the physics and the chemistry lab. Is like being exposed to the mysteries of the universe, I would say. It's slightly big phrase, but then mysteries of the universe I was exposed to. And if I'm able to attribute one thing, one incident to my interest in learning science, as it were, it would be this. That exposure really mesmerized me and almost propelled me into trying to understand nature and things, going through experiments. And then, of course, it's a long story, and that is now history.
Okay. Thank you, Abhay Bhai. Thank you so much. And of course, was it in school that you really thought of actually, taking the UPSC and becoming a police officer?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Right from class 9, I was like, physics is my domain. And if at all I'm going to do anything for physics. In fact, in my family, my parents and my brothers, they would all tease me with, you are married to physics. It would be even around 9th and 10th. And let me tell you that nobody in my family had studied science. My father was in humanities, my brother humanities, my sister's humanities. I was the only one who got interested in this subject of physics and mathematics. So
Okay,
not
thank you,
at all,
Abhayanand.
but
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, over to Mr. Rajiv Das.
Hi.
Hello, Rajiv.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to this incredible Michaelites zone. Okay. Now, Rajiv, of course, you have, a kind of a family legacy vis-a-vis St. Xavier's. I know that. All right. So how did you feel, when you were made to come over to St. Michael's? For us, of course, as Rajiv Soni very correctly said, that we had our principal coming along with us and so many teachers coming along with us. So it wasn't very traumatic, except maybe right from the heart of Patna, and in a very compact, beautiful building, we are going to something, which was away from Patna and, Kochi and Bihar and all that. That was perhaps the only thing that we were apprehensive about. So what about your memories, Rajiv? Xavier's first, and then St. Michael's, and of course, the fathers. Of course, it would be fathers for you, not brothers. So just take us down memory lane, please.
Nostalgic. Just makes you feel go down. I feel like a child again. So I joined in the year 1967. And that time Father Murphy was there, and we had to give an exam to compete and to get an admission. I passed from St. Joseph's Convent. I did class 2, and then again we were taken in class 2 in St. Xavier's. That's how I came over there. And my association was very old, since my late father was an ex-Xaverian of 1945 batch. So the good old 1945 batch, when Father Master Moran was the principal, and it was a different school altogether. It was a pre-independent school, and it was totally different. Out of the blue, I would say. So we had a very, very strong roots. So I was there to standard 5th. It was very good. We had a lot of friends. We were so emotionally attached, like brothers. Yes, it's quite a tearful separation, I would call. So when Father Murphy gave us the option, see, now this school is going to become Hindi medium, called better shift, and because he knew my father very well and he was very close to us, so he rang my father and said, "See, I think you better shift Rajiv to St. Michael's." So in fact, I was very emotional. Kind of quite nostalgic. Having all my friends over there. How to leave them and how to go. But anyway, because my parents decided, and I think I had to go, so I left. So when I came to St. Michael's, yes, as my previous speakers had said, but Mr. Soni, like what you felt when there was a changeover, same thing happened with me. So we were terrified. So that day I landed in school, the first thing I saw, one of my batchmates, another guy. So that was the scene, like entering a white house. So we were quite disciplined that way in St. Xavier's. We were not allowed to do these things. But anyway, so that was the
scene. Did any teacher who was there earlier, all right, in St. Michael's and who hadn't moved with Father Murphy to from St. Xavier's to St. Michael's, did any teacher, originally from St. Michael's teach you?
I think there were a lot of them. I think Mr. Rosario was there. And then Brother Itu, I guess, was there. I'm not wrong. Brother Itu.
No, Brother Itu came later. Yeah, he came more as a hostel warden, as a hostel superintendent.
Yes, because I joined in 71. So 71, I think Brother Itu, I definitely remember he had a long stick, and then he was very fond of giving some prizes to the hostelers who were not obeying him. That long stick used to work wonders.
Yeah, and he was very fond of tennis. In fact, the tennis culture was brought into St. Michael's, by Brother Itu.
But yes, I think there were more of fathers when we were there. We had Father Murphy, then we had Father Cox was definitely, I mean, he was there from before, and then Father Star, then
Father Zubricki was there.
Father Zubricki was there, and then Father Kunapalli was there.
Okay,
And,
yeah.
There are a lot of other teachers, like we had K.M. Joseph, and who was teaching us chemistry and this biology. And I tell you, he was a wonderful teacher. And of course, I mean, in Hindi we had Mr. Mishra, and then Robin Francis, and the host. I mean, there was a galaxy of Mr. Thomas, teaching us chemistry. I mean, so a lot of them, and it was such a nice journey. And yes, I still remember about Father Zubricki, the way he used to teach us. Oh, what a man! I mean, I think we owe a lot to him. What we are today, I mean, basically, we owe them to all this. Father. First, I'll tell about Father Murphy. See, when I came to St. James, though we were very close to, I mean, I told you my relations with his father through my father, but he was a strict, disciplinarian. He was a man with a golden heart, but at the same time, he meant discipline. I remember once in the assembly, I was waiting for about 5-10 minutes, and then my shoelaces were open. So he asked me to wait after the assembly. I don't know why he asked me to wait. I was a bit buzzed. And then he had one stick. So he touched my back. So he made me feel that next time you come on time, and next time you better tie your shoelace. So I think that made a hell of a difference, and it was a prominent thing in my mind. And so that's what and then his style of teaching was wonderful. He used to tell us, I mean, see, I don't want you to learn very complicated English words. What I want you is must know the use of right structure, the right word. I mean, how to write a proper language. Because, seeing people writing all funny kind of languages using very complex words, that's not what I want. So you teach us in a very different style. Father Star was there. He also taught English. He was also too good that way. Yeah, Father Cox was not teaching us English. We used to go to his casual library and take books and all, and he was a very nice man otherwise. But he was not teaching.
Yeah, and I think by the time you were there, Father Cox, of course, taught us English, but you were taking value education, moral education, and I think personality development. Okay, thank you so much, Rajiv. Thank you.
And I would share just one more experience. When Brother Burrows were there, I don't know how many of us remember Brother Neville Burrows.
Okay, Brother Burrows. Yes.
I was very fond and a very deep association with the Scouts. I became a president Scout, and Mr. Soni was showing us the river. By the side of the boundary wall, there was a hut, and there was a whole area which was demarcated for the Boy Scouts. That was behind the tennis court. And we had a monkey bridge over there. Then we used to do commando crossing, and all kinds of things. We used to go to Vitna Tori for a camp, for combat. And I can't tell you. I mean, he was a genius. Taught us so many. He was miles ahead of others, and really a lot of it. So that's what my experience was Boy Scouts.
So I was, small stature. Even then, and I'm still a very small statured man. Physically also. But I remember, I was in awe of the Michaelites, because the original Michaelites were, more robust, taller, and, and physically much stronger. Okay. Rajiv Soni in those days came in as a very sweet change for all of us. Yes. Rajiv.
Yeah, maybe that's why I fitted in well. But I must, you brought about a very valid point over there. You see, one thing that I think that must have been a welcome change for the Patna campus boys coming on was this 4 larger than football fields that we had. So a lot of, there was a lot of encouragement of sports, and we had to play the sports of the season. I unfortunately was a day scholar, and I missed all the hostel life. But I used to stay back. I used to live in Patliputra colonies. I used to stay back, and play. I was never much of a sports person, but we had to play the games of the season. That was absolutely there. And then also St. Michael, we are talking about the physical appearances. We had a lot of boys from Calcutta, of Chinese, a lot of Anglo-Indians. They were big and burly, and they were very good at sports.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
One of the events that we, and of course, I'm not, there's no hiding it. There was this fierce rivalry when it came to sports, and we used to have this annual sports day of St. Michael, like every school has. And the most looked forward event used to be that inter-school relay, that race. And I know why it was called inter-school. There was only Xavier's and St. Michael's participating, but as if a lot of schools were participating. And that was, it was almost as if they decided, because a year Xavier's would win, the next year we would win, and then Xavier's would win. It went on. But Xaverians had some very, very good relay people. We were much younger then. I was, I think, 10 or 11, but I don't remember names. wonder if one of you remember somebody called Talib Hussain.
Yeah, oh my God, Talib Hussain, yes, of Tigers. I still remember. Fantastic runner,
fantastic runner. No, you see that name. Now, by the time 69, Talib Hussain had left school and gone. But but we used to look at him as he's the guy who's going to win it for Xavier. You know what I mean? So that was
yeah. Wonderful, Rajiv. Thanks for
which Rosario were you talking about, Dr. Das?
Alfred Rosario, the English teacher.
Yes.
Yeah, if I may just take a minute,
the Don Bosco director and owner now.
Principal.
Yes, so one day Brother Dineen walked in, and it was the beginning of the term. It must have been 6th or 7th of January and all that. And we were expecting our ex-teacher, Mr. G. Daniel, to take over. And that was, we were expecting him.
Okay.
And if anybody remembers Daniel, they know that, he used to love giving 6 of the best. And then this very short little gentleman, very nattily dressed in a black suit and a tie, walked in. Teachers, of course, dressed in suits those days. So he walked in. Brother Dean said, "This is your new school teacher," and he left. And then this gentleman picked up the set and he said, "My name is Alfred George D. Rosario." Now, I being me, and I'm going to confess today, and I told this to Mr. Rosario the other day, and he remembered it very well. And I said, "Is that a name or a sentence?" That very short man gave such a long stare that I still remember, and I never forgot that dirty look I got. But he was a great guy, and he did well. He did a lot for the community as well. We also had, I think, one of the teachers that also took our class. The first class was Mr. Raj.
Yes, Mr. Raj came in 1969. Yeah, exactly.
Abhayanand will remember this. He was, I think, the first class he took was ours in 69.
Yes,
I think so. Yes.
Mathematics, I know I wrote to him.
Great guy.
And then, of course, he also took higher advanced mathematics with our batches as well.
I think Raj brought with him mathematics as well as football.
We have memories of Father Murphy's death. I still remember the day he died. I cried. And I remember our seniors carrying the coffin. They were only seniors carrying the coffin in the school dress, and they laid him to rest in the cemetery just opposite the school. What a sight it was. So I think the whole of Patna had come down.
Yes, it was a big 73, was it? 73.
72 September.
71 or 72.
No, 72 September.
That's 72. You're right.
72 September.
Next year he passed away.
Yeah. I mean, that was supposed to be, perhaps one of the biggest processions, funeral processions that Patna had ever witnessed or would ever witness. I'm told. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to the wonderful trio from my side, and of course, now you took us down some fantastic, memory lane. Really made us all nostalgic, made us all smile, made the viewers, made the listeners all smile, all the fellow Michaelites. So now, Nishant.
Yes. Thank you, Amber, sir.
Yeah, because you see, I remained a teacher, of school children. Therefore, my bibi bacha hu. Now I bank on my bachas, to actually do the more serious stuff. Over to you, Nishant.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Amba.
Thank you.
Thanks for that nostalgic lane we all went to. So I'll again go to Rajiv Soni Bhaiya. Rajiv Bhaiya. So now I would like to also know about that your book 100cc A Century of Communication, which was released by Ratan Tata. And before that, I think if we can just see that school photographs, the archives once more, and if you can just explain the photographs again, would be a great stuff. So we were on school from 60s.
Okay, fine. So this was the school the way I remember it. This is school in 1960. Now the building, let's go back to the building. The photo on the right was the old building, which was remodeled in sections and looks almost the same. It still has a portico in the front, but now where this garden used to be, there's this huge concrete kind of a stage kind of thing which has been set up, and the road was much narrower, so the field was larger, as you can see. This was the school as we remember 1960 when we joined. Can I have the next one, please? So this was the view from the school. You could see, that the Ganges almost used to lick the walls and in season time when it would abate, but not too much down. And if you see the photo on the right, is the school in 1960, And right next to it, there's on the left-hand side is the Hatwa Koti or the Hatwa Hall, where I think was also the geography classes where Mr. Taravda took his sessions over there, and later it also became the student lounge for us.
Yeah, and
That
later
was,
on became the hostel lounge also. Yeah, very
yeah,
true.
yeah. And on the right-hand side was the building which was made in 1930. So these are some school shots of 1960. So if I go clockwise, that's the good old St. Michael's Gate, which all of us remember so well. Then the one top right was the new building which came up when it had just come up when I joined school, 60, 61. And you can see that there were no trees, the toilets weren't constructed, and nothing was there then that time. Bottom left was the school infirmary, which was broken down subsequently. And this infirmary was a great place, because if someone broke a leg, had diarrhea, had a headache, had fever, you got this horrible tasting red colored liquid. That's all I remember of it. That's very well.
Yeah, we had Miss Callahan there, Miss Callahan, very jovial.
Yes, absolutely. And so, but it was a great place. And I must just add here the two. Just go back to two iconic buildings. The infirmary and the cottage next to the swimming pool, which was actually where St. Michael's School started from, which has now been broken down. It was a lovely. It was a 6 gable cottage, and that's where it started from, and now it's gone. And of course, the building on the right was when in 1960, the top were the dormitories, at the bottom were the showers, and on the right-hand side, what later became a chemistry lab, and I think it for some time became the library or whatever, was a part study hall where we used to see movies every Sunday on a 16 mm. And while this was still happening, the old building was being remodeled and a new study hall came on top. And the steps on the right-hand side were there's a story to that also, because earlier the steps didn't exist in the 1934 earthquake, and then when the earthquake happened, people had to leave, and there was only one flight of steps in the middle. So these extra stairway was also constructed. So just giving a little bit of history on that, So for the new Michaelites who might be watching this.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
This was our faculty of this thing. So if you see. Second row from the last left-hand side, second is Mr. Raj is standing there. Mr. Rosario standing last row, fourth from the right. Then you got everybody with that. You can read names.
The top.
Father Cox is there. Father Murphy is there. So
I can see.
The two core sisters are there. The two core sisters are there. B core, S core.
And Father Pinto is there.
Oh yes, with his beard.
With his beard, and then Jeff DeCosta is there. So there's a whole lot of people over there, and this was our faculty in 1970. It's of course spotted because a bit of termites got into my collection. So this is what we had. Mr. Taravdar is there. Mr. Sinha is there. Just go ahead, please. I think that's about all the photos we had to share. Any other photos? No. Abhayanand, you want to say something about the faculty here? You're there that time. Or this is us. So this is
this is something fantastic. This is all three speakers today, all three panelists, all three alumni today, and the yesterday photo and today's photo. This is something. Thank you, Rajiv Bhaiya. This is some extremely great collections you have shown us.
Very good. But you notice that all of us are extremely nattily dressed then and now.
Huh? Exactly.
There is one story about Father Murphy, which I would like to recall.
Yes,
that made a lot of difference to the way I lived my life. That one incident. It was the last day of my school. Final exams over, last paper over, and from the examination hall, I was like jumping out and heading for the cycle stand. Right on the landing of the staircase, I saw Father Murphy climbing up while I was jumping down. And I wished him and ran. Somebody came running behind me and said, "Principal wants to talk to you." I came running back. He had already gone into his room. And the moment he saw me, he said, "Where is your school belt, Abhayanand?" And I just had to say sorry. He said, "You are still not out of school." That was that one sentence which instilled that sense of discipline in me, which of course saw me through with the police profession.
Excellent.
So I just
Excellent.
wanted to, at the amount of discipline that they had in them, and they that tried to inculcate this discipline into all of us. Imagine last day, final exam over, and you're running out. It's almost out of school, but then he spots that out.
Yes,
Excellent. Yeah.
yes, Abhay, yes. In fact, Father Murphy had this wonderful quality, you know. I mean, he was a strict disciplinarian, but at the same time, he never appeared to be lording it over us or imposing it, you know, with an iron hand or something. You know, very gentle, very, very polished. And, you know, he was one, perhaps, you know, perhaps who influenced you so much that you could be a police officer and yet be very polished, very refined, very gentle in your mannerisms and your speech and so on.
Do you remember, Amber, if there was even an iota of sound coming out of the classroom, and while he is walking through the corridor, he would just peep in, and that was enough.
His stare was enough.
That was enough.
Yes.
Brilliant, sir.
Yeah, and how friendly Father Cox and Father Murphy would be during the school trips. I mean, you would say, oh my God, I mean, boss, and they would, you know, even joke with each other and they would say, okay, you know what Cox means? Okay, Cox means boiled potatoes. Then he would pull his leg, all right? And then, you know, he would make the kids, I mean, like all of us also join in their fun. I mean, it was you know, a totally different sort of world altogether.
Allow me to share a very emotional moment with Father Cox, but this was not in school. I was a superintendent of police in a district, and I
Voice is not clear.
and said, "Son, I would like to share something with you." And his sentence was, "I'm almost at the end of my life. I would like to die as an Indian citizen." And then, you know, I was like speechless before him. And then he turns around and tells me, "Do you know I've got more reasons to be an Indian than you?" I said, "How do you say that, Father?" He said, "What is your age?" And he said, "I'm here in India for more years than your age." I said, "I'm beaten, but what can I do to help you?" He said, "I've applied for it and can you get it done?" I said, "Sure." I got after it and he got an Indian citizenship, got a passport. He called me over and showed me the passport. And he died as an Indian citizen. But look at the emotion that he had in him. He said, "I would like to die as an Indian citizen." That was, I wanted to share this with you.
Great, sir. Well done, sir. Which is yeah.
Very important story. Very important.
Very important and very thankful to you as well, sir.
We are because of them, and they came from. They were foreigners. They came to India. They taught us. They died over here. So I don't think we can get better states than them.
Yeah. Fantastic, sir.
The amount of dedication that we have seen in our teachers.
It's impossible. It's impossible. You won't find it these days.
You can't get it today.
You just can't.
Get it.
Even money cannot buy it.
Nothing.
Yeah. Thank you, Abhayanand, sir. So, Rajiv, yeah, I'll come to the same thing. Let's start that. Again, the 100cc, A Century of Communication by Ratan Tata. Just share something about that.
I'm sorry. It's not by Ratan Tata. It's by Rajiv Soni. Released by Ratan Tata.
No. Yeah, I'm telling released by. Your book. I'm telling your book.
Yeah, you see, you know, when I joined Tata Steel pretty late in 1988. You know, because like I told you, I used to work with Union Bank of India, and then I was there for 6-7 years, and then I realized I was just not cut out for the bank. You know, because they sent me to 4-5 years, ठीक था. उसके बाद में they said you go to, you know, one place called English More near Bhagalpur and take over branch manager and all that, and that's when I put in my papers. So I helped my father and I joined this local fledgling tie up this whole business about this book to that, and you know how I joined Tata Steel is also a very interesting thing. When I was doing this my photography, I realized I had a lot of good equipment. And Tata Steel did their Tata Steel quiz, and they asked me to do the quiz over there. And guess who was the quiz master? Amitabh Chaudhary. And that's when I first met him. And Amitabh Chaudhary was SDPO of Patna somewhere, this and that. And we got together, and two quizzes later, I got this offer from and Amitabh used to say you should be joining Tata Steel. It's very good. I'm actually acknowledging that, and then then I actually got this offer from Tata Steel to join them in the corporate communications department, which I did. So I was in Jamshedpur, right, from 88 to 96, and 96 because of my advertising background, I was sent to from Jamshedpur to Calcutta to take over a desk called product promotion advertising, and then I was with them for a few years in that department. And then I was sent to a separate department was made, to make brands into commodities. And I right from 2000 to 2010, 9, I spent in that department. And once my role was over, I came back to Tata Steel. I came back to corporate communications, and that's when I went through the archives, and I got these huge collection of advertisements. So I said, let me trace the history of Tata Steel through its advertisements. And the best part about this book, and this has been written about, and that's what the reviews say, it not only is a history of Tata Steel through its advertisements, but it also establishes two things: the coming of a new nation, Bharat, India, because the way it was built in, how Gandhiji came in, and how Netaji was also the union leader, etc. And at the same time, it clearly establishes the change in advertising styles, the way the copy was written, the way the visuals were made, etc. And it was then released on the Founders' Day by Mr. Tata himself. And I said, will you please autograph a copy for me? And he laughed, and he said, it's usually the author that gives the copy. So he has a copy. I don't know what he's done with it. Which says, with best regards from Rajiv Soni. And I have got one copy which just says Ratan Tata. So that's the story. But I'll just add to it. Tata Steel has just asked me a year ago to do a book, and which till now it's got held up because of this this COVID thing. It'll be like a sequel to that. It's the history of brands of Tata Steel, which should be out in a couple of months. So that is going to be two book launches of mine coming very soon. One on the city of Patna, the other on the brands of Tata Steel.
Fantastic, Rajiv. Yeah, fantastic. I'll go to Abhayanand, sir. We would like to understand, you conceptualized something called Super 30 to teach poor student to crack IIT JEE. So it was a great thought. So just wanted to have a view on that from your side.
Yes, Nishant. As you all know, I was never a teacher. I was definitely a good student. But somehow I got the opportunity of teaching my children. That was one-on-one. After they got into and graduated from the IIT, I decided to pick up the poorer guys who had talent in mathematics and physics, because I could sense that talent in people by just talking to them. So I decided to get onto this, and this was the year 2002. Because I was in government service and I couldn't flaunt this around as a concept which is mine. One. Secondly, I couldn't have given enough time to it. So therefore, there was assistance all around, and it went on. People got associated with me. It's about 20 years now. People got disassociated with me, but the journey keeps on.
Wonderful.
Yes. Fantastic, sir. Superb.
Wonderful.
This is a great legacy what you have left over, and someone is carrying is something else. But this was a great thought and a great mind behind this.
Give me a couple of minutes to tell you the difference that I noticed. I'll just take about a couple of minutes.
Please, sir. Go on, sir.
I retired on the 1st of January 2015, technically on the 31st December. And within 15 days, I got a call from DTU, Delhi Technological University, to give a talk. This was the first time that I was traveling outside Patna not as a police officer, but as almost as a nobody. When I reached there, it was late in the night. I found about 40, 50 students waiting in their guest house. It has a nice guest house,
Yeah.
waiting for me with dinner.
Oh,
And when I had the dinner, I kept talking to them. My wife was with me. I took my plates, the plates which I had taken my dinner in, to the bathroom. I started taking it to the bathroom, and they said, "आप इसको छोड़ दीजिए सर, ये हम लोग ले जाएंगे." And they took it to the bathroom, washed it, came back, and they requested both me and my wife to sit on the bed. There are two different beds, and they started lining up. About 50 of them stung, and I was like overawed. Really, I had never seen this in the police. Police use a very formal thing. You get to a place, you have received, there is a regalia, and everything is mechanical.
yeah.
But I was just overawed by this response, and I just wanted to share this with you.
Fantastic, sir.
Students, are just fantastic. Fantastic. Absolutely.
Yes, 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 sir. So, the journey of Abhayanand, sir, he was the 48th DGP of the state, and his father, late Jagdanand C, was the 28th DGP of Bihar. So basically, it's a legacy which is getting carried on. Sir, as a police officer, as an ADG also, we have seen a lot of good things you have done. So first, I would like to we would not like to know about the speedy trial and the convictions of the criminals in Bihar, what you initiated, which happened in your time. And as per the records, it says 14,311 persons were out on speedy trial, 37 were awarded capital punishment, and 1875 people were given life imprisonment. So, how was this possible as the role of the very dedicated policeman?
Nishant, the figure that you are giving is in the first 2 years only. In my entire career from ADG to DGP, this is when
Right.
I piloted these projects.
Yeah.
The figure has crossed 1 lakh convictions.
Oh, fantastic.
Wow.
Superb. Superb.
Now, the background is like when this present chief minister took over, he wanted plans, and it was like there was a one-to-one conversation in which he said, "Can we get something done in the police?" This was, moving around in my thought process because I had learned policing and I knew what should be done to get it uh, through and affect the law and order situation. The background is like this, Nishant. Police, you get taught to investigate cases, file a charge sheet in the court, and then you almost throw up your hand, say the rest of the process is for the judiciary. This is where the difference that I created got created. I said, yes, you do not have a direct role, but then it's almost like a relay race, Nishan. The first runner is the legislature, which passes on the baton to the police to investigate. The charge sheet is filed. The third runner is the judiciary, and the fourth, of course, is the reformatory, that is the jail. So this picture and concept was very clear in my mind. So the exchange of baton between the police and the judiciary, that is where I stepped in, and I said, I'll have to push it through. I will not cross the exchange zone, but I can push it through in that area. And this is exactly what I did. And uh, I feel very proud that even the judiciary, which is the higher judiciary in Bihar, they trusted me to a very large extent. And I was able to talk it through with them, uh, not individual cases, but the way it has to be done. They were also feeling that the judiciary is not able to get the cases processed in time, because it's our job in the police to produce witnesses, to help them in trying the cases. It's not a mutually exclusive zone at the level of trials. So that is where I stepped in, and that is what actually helped create a good law and order situation. In fact, if you remember that period from 2005, 6 beginning January to 2010, it was like everyone was talking about अब हम लोग आराम से रात में भी चल सकते हैं. In fact, I'll tell you a very interesting family matter. When this talk was going around, my wife told me, "अभी बहुत बातें हो रही हैं, but I will accept it only if you take me to a cinema hall in the night show 9 to 12." Without any bodyguard or a police driver,
No
you will have
uniform.
to drive the vehicle. No police
wow,
uniform,
great.
obviously. And this was a test which was put to me. And she said, you will have to drive our own car and we'll go. So I took her to Ashok. I don't remember which film it was. But the climax was when we were returning back at around 12, I saw a newly married couple on a rickshaw going back from Ashok to her home, wherever it was.
Yeah.
And then I pointed this out to her and she said, yes, now I accept it.
Super, super.
Absolutely. Namaskar to the hard taskmaster.
Yes.
The real assessor. The real assessor.
So I'm just phrasing it, sir. Yes. Only a Michaelite could have done this.
Absolutely.
Very important, sir. So, and you know what? And let me tell you to all fellow alumni, we all tried our level best to make this Zoom call happen with Abhayanand, sir. It was extremely tough, and no one would believe it only happened in the last 10 minutes of the webinar 3 which started. So we are lucky to have you, sir. We could not have afford to miss you in this session. Just the last question, sir. Yes. Just the last question, sir. There was a short of manpower in the police, and you came with an idea of recruiting the retired army men. So just throw some light, and then we'll go to Rajiv Das Bhaiya.
Yes, Nishant, it is true. When this new government was formed in 2005 November, but this project came up in 2006 January. It is true that we did not have policemen, and whoever there were all the old fogies, because recruitment had not been done for many years.
Yeah.
So when the government, by the government I mean the present chief minister, we had a conversation. I was still a ADG, and I presented this concept to him. And his first reaction was, "Do you know what you're saying? It will be like giving on contract the most sacrosanct function of the state, which is providing security to the citizens of the state." Because what I was suggesting was, take the retired army constables on contract basis and use them for anti-Naxal and anti-crime operations activity, not for the routine functioning of the police.
Right.
And this was his reaction. And I said, I have talked to the Advocate General, and he says that if the intentions are good, law will take care of itself. And then the rest is like, there was just no proposal from our side, from the police side. This was announced straight away in the assembly, which is a very unusual thing to do. The chief minister normally never announces any government decision without having approved of it in file. There was nothing on paper regarding the proposal, and it was straight away announced in the house, and it came up. And then, of course, it delivered also. It was called a Special Auxiliary Police. And once it was done, I piloted this project with the army people. Once it was done, there were other states which followed suit because they found that this was a brilliant idea.
Odisha, MP, and Jharkhand.
Odisha, MP, Jharkhand, yes.
Yes, yes.
People who are neighbors of Bihar.
Hmm.
It was a brilliant, and it came in a flash. I said, what do we need? We need armed, trained people who can fight. If they can fight the enemies, so these are our enemies, they can fight them also. All that we need to do is give them the weapons. And this is exactly how it happened, you know. When we took them, the first thing they said was, Sir, bata do kaun sa weapon doge. And and you know, the Bihar police, they were used to like putting 20 people at a place because if surrounded by Naxals, they thought more the merrier hoga. But these army guys, they would say, नहीं साहब 4 ज़्यादा हैं हम लोग, but हमको एक LMG जरूर दे देना उसका. That is the difference in
Light
approach.
machine gun. Very nice, sir.
Yeah.
Superb, sir. Brilliant,
Wonderful.
sir. Yeah, good to have you. Congratulations. Let's all congratulate Abhayanand, sir. Now, I'm coming to another stalwart in Mumbai who has done sun wonders. 30 years of experience, a senior consultant surgeon and a cancer surgeon in Mumbai, on top panels of all biggest hospitals like Nanavati, Hiranandani, Asian Heart, Guru Nanak, Fortis, and others in Mumbai. Dr. Rajiv Das. So Rajiv Bhaiya has operated upon more than 10,000 surgeries on a whole, which is not a small achievement. It's a big honor. So welcome, Bhaiya. And I'll straight away go to your professional question first. Your specialization is into breast oncoplastic surgery. Can you elaborate, please?
I did my MS, and after doing MS, I did my fellowship in cancer surgery at Tata Hospital. So in Tata Hospital, I did as a whole, I did in all branches of cancer surgery, not only breast. Okay. And then I also worked at Bombay Hospital, also did fellowship over there. And then I was working in different hospitals. I was working even in Delhi at RML Hospital. And then I had gone to Mauritius. I worked over there also. So it's a long journey. So after that, when I came back to Bombay, so then I stuck. And then, of course, I was operating all kinds of cancers. But nowadays, what is happening? Breast cancer surgery has gone a sea change. Earlier, cancer surgery means, what it meant was taking out everything, taking out as much as you can. But in the end, there was such a lot of disfigurement, and that disfigurement at what cost? Are we adding anything to the patient's life or well-being or whatever? So the answer is no. So then the idea of conservation came. So organ preservation, along with doing good surgery, saving the part, as well as taking out what is required, and then supplementing it with chemotherapy and radiation, so that the patient has a long-term survival. And so having the same benefits, what he would have achieved, whether he had gone a radical surgery with removal and everything, doing everything, or doing a localized surgery with a complete removal, and of course, adding some additional treatment, what I told. So that was the reason why it evolved. So I went to Cambridge. And there's that Adel Bruce Hospital in Cambridge, which is akin to AIMS in India. It's one of the oldest hospitals. It's a place where Watson and Crick discovered the section of the gene, the DNA they encoded over there. So that's a place. So it's a very historical place. And a lot of discoveries of medical science have taken over there. So I was lucky and fortunate to have been over there. So I did a fellowship in breast oncoplastic surgery. So that is conservation of the breast. So that is, the patient has got cancer, remove the cancer, remove the lymph nodes. We only remove what is required. We know that we have taken out everything, nothing is left behind. Then we complete with a course of radiation or chemotherapy or whatever has been required. And the patient survives. The patient has got a natural breast. We put an implant sometimes, we put a flap sometimes, a lot of procedures. So ultimately the aim is to give as much cosmesis as possible. And this is called breast oncoplastic surgery, which I'm doing. And in Bombay, perhaps very few people are doing it in the true sense. Everyone is doing cancer surgery. Everyone you find is a cancer surgeon. But yes, it's an art. So I've tried to kind of do something in that, trying to do my best, and trying to see that patients live and they unnecessarily don't suffer and they don't get mutilated. So that's about the sum of this surgery.
Super, Bhaiya. Now, your contribution to the cancer awareness has been extremely great. We would also let us know, we'll also good to know about the NGO you have been supporting and associated with. So can you just throw some light on this?
See, actually, to sum it up, I mean, I would say there are two aspects. One is the profession where I'm operating, I'm doing surgeries. Maybe I've done more than about 30,000 surgeries to just correct your figure. So I mean, I'm taking all these years. But of course, there were different branches I was doing. But yes, for the last maybe about 10, 15 years, I'm doing more of cancer surgery. And then my interest is also academic. So you'll find me that I'm going to a lot of conferences. I'm a guest speaker. I'm a national faculty. I'm giving lectures. I mean, and then trying to teach people. So that's also kind of a service because, see, I mean, unless you, share the knowledge with the juniors or with the colleagues, science doesn't evolve. I mean, doesn't evolve. Nowadays, times are bad. I mean, the people are hiding things to themselves. If they know something, they will not let another one know. I mean, as a matter of competition, as a kind of a competition. But yes, because of my school background and the roots that I have inculcated, I believe it's always good to share and see that people learn and people do new things and good things for the society. So that is one way. And the other is, yes, we have an NGO. My wife, she's a doctor, and she's also practicing in Mumbai. There's an NGO called Sukrita, and she's attached to that. She's offering free services. So we're holding camps. So I'm creating awareness. I'm holding a lot of talks. I give lectures. I tell them about the prevention of cancer, not just breast cancer, but any cancer rather. What is the science you should do, and I mean, you should check for. And the most important thing is, see, the doing of the diagnosis. See, the biggest setback that we have, I mean, as of now, is that people come to us in a very late stage, and thanks to the, kind of a misguided policy we have in our country, there's no uniform policy. They'll go to a homeopath, they'll go to a quack, they'll go to an Ayurvedic. Someone will tell you, apply this malam, apply this leaf, do something, take some kara, take some kind of obnoxious treatment or what, and then the disease advances. So my message is very simple: that if the disease has to be cured with the least mutilation, it has to come early. So the disease has to be caught as early as possible. So that awareness is very important. So unless the patient comes to you in the very beginning, in the initial stage, the progress becomes bad, and of course it becomes more mutilating. I mean, we have a lot of medicine, a lot of drugs now we have in our armamentarium, which we use to downstage the disease, make the disease operable, but still, I mean, there's nothing like getting a disease in the early stage and treating it. Be it any cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer, GI cancer, any part of the body, I would say.
Very nice, sir. So, Rajiv, continuing that, we have seen enough extracurricular activities as well, especially into instrumental music. And we have seen you stood first at the national and the state level youth festival and music competition as well.
Yes, I think there's a medal photo.
We saw in the
yes.
In the presentation.
So that was the medal I got at Bihar Yuva Mahotsav. We can just put that medal.
Yes.
No, this is a clip which I just paid for you because you asked me. I just paid it. I think you can go back to the medal. I think there's a medal photo. This is a video clip. In the photo, my photo you find is the medal over there.
Yeah. We'll just open that PPT for you. In the meantime, can you just tell about that?
Yeah. So that medal was awarded to me in the Bihar. Yeah. This is the one. Yes. So as you can see that it was I won the first prize at Bihar Yuva Mahotsav, which was held for the first time in Bihar. That was in the year 1981. And I was still studying in medical. I was in third year. I was in third year when I won this prize. In fact, this was the history. When I was in Sanjeev, when I was in Michael's, when Father Harland was there, there was a one-act play festival society of which Mrs. Annie Mukhopadhyay was the president. And for the first time, she had held a competition. That competition was all Patna inter-school music competition. So Father Murphy knew, Father Harland knew about my musical interest about the guitar. So he told me, Rajiv, you have to go and play over there. Father, but I'm quite scared. He said, it's all Patna inter-school. How do I do? No, you have to go. So myself and there was one my junior, Tapas Chatterjee, was playing tabla. So we played over there and we understood first. So that was the turning point, and there was no looking back. So after that, I went to Science College, and then we participated in that festival at School of Mines, Dhanbad. They stood first for the entire team. I remember Pakesh Arya with me, playing with me. So I stood first over there. And then at Delhi, and then of course Bihar Yuva Mahotsav. So it was no looking back. So it was a pride for me. The first time they had a festival in Bihar, and I was awarded the first final gold medal. So that's in the category of all the instrumentals, among all instruments. So I was an amateur, I was not a professional. I was in medical already. But anyway, I Allah could have and maybe
Very nice, sir. Very nice. Extremely proud of you, sir. Proud of you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll come to Rajiv Soni again. Rajiv bhaiya.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would just, now that we have reached to the end of this webinar 3 of Incredible Michaelites, I would also like that you should give some message to the all the alumni who are watching this from all long.
Oh.
Can you view those?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go on.
Yeah. There's one thing I'd like to, before I giving any kind of, gyan or something, I don't know, and I'm in a position to do that, especially with Abhayanand around as a very senior teacher, a number there. So, but I would like to say that to your 2 degrees that you have, and whatever degrees that you've got, add 2 more degrees to it. The degree of CS and the degree of SS. And that I think has been the kind of a success story for a lot of us. CS stands for common sense and SS stands for street smartness. I think unless you have this, you can't succeed. That's one thing which I have very, very clear about. I'm not saying street smartness in negative form, but in today's day and time, and especially common sense. I think a lot of people just lack common sense. You need to hone on that. But while I'm speaking to, and I hope a lot of alumni are listening over there, I'd kind of mooted this idea on to the father principal of St. Michael's on the 8th of February this year when we met. We had a class of 75, out of which about 14 unfortunately are with the gods. We can't trace 5 of them, but when we began working on our 50 years alumni, we actually had a confirmation from 51 people out of the remaining 62, 63, and in the end we ended up getting about 42 or 43 people in the end. There were some last minute dropouts which happened. And that's when, and the 2 things I'll say to this is that I had suggested that if the new building is coming up and father principal has agreed, now it depends on the alumni association over there to take it up. There's a lot of memory, which is, like what I was actually referring to, having like a museum on archives, whatever. Like I know people, there's a gentleman called Jamal Khan, 1969 batch, ex-Michaelite. He's got all his report cards. He's got all the bills. He was a hosteler. He still has got all his bills that he paid for, etc. I've got my school belt of 1969-70. I've got my school belt.
Yearbooks are there.
The yearbooks are there. We can all be digitized and put on screens. And certain things that you can have, memorabilia kind of thing, you can have on glass cases. I really urge if somebody can take up this thing. There's so much of material. My brother, 1964 batch from St. Michael's, he's got a lot of stuff lying with him still. He's quite a good runner. So his school medals, his trophies. I'm willing to give all of them. Because if somebody wants them, I think we should actually move that idea and have a list. That was one. That was a very memorable experience that we had 50 years. And to top it all, Mr. Abhayanand, who's sitting right here, invited all of us over to his fantastic house, and we had the most fantastic meal. And I'm at his house. Thank you so much, Abhay, for that fantastic lunch that we had with you.
Add homemade to your meal.
Homemade, absolutely. No, let me add to that. An evening before, we had some littis at some place, and I can't take the name, but it was a commercial joint. And then we had littis again at Abhayanand. Was Zameen Asman ka fark tha.
Excellent, nice. Rajiv. So let me also tell you that Rajiv bhaiya. So Rajiv Soni is the only common link, whether you talk about 60s, whether you talk about 90s. He's one common link to all the alumni of St. Michael's anywhere across the globe, which is really fantastic. Congratulations, I'm telling you. So you know how to be a communication head.
That's what I told you, Nishant. That's what I told you.
Hello.
Being 1 year junior to him, we could make it out,
Hello?
point of view that he was, that Michaelite who just gelled so beautifully and brought us all together.
Right.
Oh, that's very sweet of you. I didn't know I was
super.
That famous.
So I'll go to Abhayanand sir again. Abhayanand sir, your message to the alumni, the alma mater, all the St. Michael's alumni at this point of time.
Very short. Our school motto was for God and country.
Country.
I think says it all.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Rajiv Bhaiya, Dr. Rajiv Das. Rajiv Bhaiya, same thing. Your
Yeah.
one-line message.
Yeah, I would just like to mention that something happened very recently.
Hello,
My SSR, as you all know, passed away.
Ken Mishra speaking.
Hello.
Sir, K.N. Mishra sir has joined us.
Oh, great, sir. Great, sir.
Oh.
Can you open the video, please?
You cannot see him.
Yes. Oh, welcome.
Cannot see him. Cannot see him.
Yes, yes, great, great. Where is he? Show us.
You'll have to slide your this thing to see him.
Yes, yes.
Very good evening.
Pranam sir, welcome sir.
Pranam sir.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar. Good evening.
हेलो
प्रणाम सर।
सर आप
हाँ।
दिख रहे हैं हम लोगों को।
सर आपको प्रणाम कर रहे हैं।
हाँ ठीक है
अभयानंद जी हैं 1970
कुछ
से।
सुनने
राजीव
में
सोनी।
प्रॉब्लम होता है।
अच्छा, आप आशीर्वाद दे दीजिए
हेलो।
सर।
आप आशीर्वाद दे दीजिए सबको।
आपको सुनना है सबको बहुत। हेलो हेलो
सर,
हाँ
नाम
सर बोलिए।
बताइए, नाम बताते चलिए।
अभयानंद जी 1970।
अभयानंद तो 70 बैच
70
जी।
ना एक्स डीजीपी।
अरे सुपर, क्या बात है सर। मिस्टर राजीव सोनी।
निशांत दयाल। आप निशांत दयाल हैं। हेलो,
जी सर।
किस बैच के हैं?
1993 सर।
1993 का।
हाँ।
कौन
अच्छा, राजीव सोनी है 1970।
अच्छा 1970।
अभयानंद के साथी थे।
प्रणाम कर रहे हैं।
हेलो उदय। अच्छा
नहीं
वो
नहीं,
कौन?
वो नहीं, डॉक्टर राजीव दास हैं 1975।
राजीव
दास, डॉक्टर राजीव दास।
राजीव दास, डॉक्टर राजीव दास। विच बैच?
1975।
सर आपने निर्मला बुलाया।
1975। अच्छा
सर सबको आशीर्वाद दे दीजिए सर।
सब बदले हुए हैं चेहरा एकदम ना।
और मैं भी हूँ।
अभयानंद तो खैर इससे बराबर मुलाकात होती रही है।
मैं भी हूँ। अंबर बैनर्जी भी है।
अंबर बनर्जी। हाँ अभी तो तुमसे बातचीत हुई थी भाई।
चलिए सर, बस आपका आशीर्वाद चाहिए सबको सर।
हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, मेरा आशीर्वाद सबको है।
हाँ, ये एक ऐसा
भगवान
चीज है,
हम लोग को दीर्घायु बनाए।
हम लोग सारे माइकलाइट को जोड़ना चाह रहे हैं। उसी का ये कॉन्सेप्ट है सर, इनक्रेडिबल माइकलाइट्स करके।
पुरानी यादें ताजा कर रहे हैं सर।
कौन?
पुरानी यादें ताजा कर रहे हैं।
पुरानी यादें ताजा कर रहे हैं। यादें ताजा कर रहे हैं।
पुरानी यादें
सुनने में दिक्कत होती है हमको।
हाँ,
कोई दिक्कत नहीं सर, आप आ गए, बहुत बड़ी बात थी।
बहुत बड़ी बात है, बहुत बड़ी बात है।
थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू सर। प्रणाम सर।
प्रणाम सर। राजीव भैया प्लीज कंटिन्यू, वी जस्ट ऑन टू दिस।
तो एक मैसेज हमारा यह है कि आज की तारीख में अभी सुशांत सिंह राजपूत की जो घटना हुआ है, सो सैड। तो मेरा एक ही मैसेज है बच्चों को, जो यंगस्टर्स हैं आज के, है ना, रुक जाना नहीं, तू कहीं हार के, कांटों पर चल कर मिलेंगे साहिब हार के। I played this song on my guitar just now after we talked. I'm very happy if you could just share it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superb, yeah. Well done.
So lovely way to end the session, Nishant.
Yes, sir.
हाँ, the incredible MICHAELITES को भी नहीं रुकना कहीं पर.
Yeah.
Fantastic, sir. Superb. Well done. So, coming to the end of this incredible Michaelites session 3, webinar 3. Thank you, Rajiv Soni Bhaiya. You were fantastic.
Thank you so much.
As common, you archived some brilliant photographs and some experiences of the school time. Thanks again, Bhaiya.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhayanand, sir. It was some very meritorious thing we learned from you, and very proud of you, sir. Thank you. And at last we could connect. So that was very important.
Thank you, Nishant, and thank you to all the panelists. It was very nice listening to all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Rajiv Das Bhaiya, thank you. It was a fantastic time. We could know much more about you and some good music to end. And Amber Banerjee is always fond of so much good music, so he could get that as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So next webinar is tomorrow, 6 p.m., 21st of June, 6 p.m. And the panelists would be 1976 batch Dr. Sushant Srivastav, 1980 batch Mr. Pramath Raj Sinha, and Mr. Nikesh Sinha, 1980 as well. So join in tomorrow, 6 p.m., Sunday as usual. Thank you. Thanks for all the panelists today, and look forward to much more things coming on the incredible Michaelites. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishant. Thank you, Amber. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Amber, sir. Fantastic,
Bye.
sir.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
लीजिए
All yours.